We'll chop off this first little bit here, and I'll just say hi. Welcome to the Action Cast. I'm Eric. I'm here with a whole freaking zoo of people tonight.
He ate
Um,
Joe's face, and now he's Joe.
yeah, I took over for Joe. I am the Joe. But yeah. Anyways, so I'm here with let's say I'll go in the order of the G Chat Hangout call with Alex Rio,
I
uh, Angela Catalano,
Hello.
Anthony Rogers.
You invited me on here, but I told you should have got a Zenith.
Okay. Ethan Chang.
Yeah, it's me. If you were gonna pick one line in the movie to quote, that's the one.
No, definitely. I figured I was gonna be like number 8 on the list, so I had to pick something that was more of a deep cut. Yeah.
And Bryce Wilson.
So Rockin' Ricky is like Herman Mankiewicz in that he's tired of Orson Welles' bullshit. So
Yeah. See, I almost
it's
yeah.
like Herman
Right.
Mankiewicz in that he's tired.
Joe is messaging and says we're not live on Twitch.
Yeah, we
unless
are.
It's on a separate
We
account.
are live.
We are definitely live on Twitch. I'm watching it right now.
All
So,
right.
anyways, hi. This is the Action Cast. This is the Action Cast 2, I guess. This is the sequel to a podcast where we watched movies and talked about them, specifically action movies. And now,
we're
now
the new
these
batch.
days, yeah, we're Action Cast 2 with the new batch, where we watch a movie and talk about it on YouTube, I guess, instead of it as a podcast. Since Joe's not on, we're not actually streaming to YouTube. I'm on Twitch, where you can check out the archive there on YouTube. I'm gonna play some.
But you're
I'm gonna play
probably
some
watching
Game
this on
Boy
YouTube later.
games. Yeah, I'm gonna play some Game Boy. This first game is called Gremlins Unleashed. It was released for the Game Boy Color. I'm not gonna play Gremlins 2 tonight because that's a Gremlins 2 based video game. But yeah, so we watched. It's Christmas, this Christmas season, and we watched Gremlins, which is a very fine Christmas movie. And we watched, what was the other one? Krampus.
Krampus.
All right, we're going to talk about that. And I think that there was a big list of news stuff that people wanted to talk about. So maybe we could rip through that real quick and I can like make derogatory comments about covering news. Although I guess it makes more sense now because at least it's like contemporary with when the show goes up as opposed to the Action Cast where it was often
But
weeks
the
or
longer
months
this
later.
introduction goes, the less it is.
Listen, I got a lot going on right now, Anthony.
I know. You're doing an admirable job.
Should I play as
Joe.
Gizmo the Mogwai or Stripe the Gremlin?
Mogwai.
All right, we'll
Go,
start with.
yeah.
Yeah, go good.
All right.
Yeah, lawful good, man. I gotta say, just for posterity, even though I know that literally no one cares, I just watched the Steelers collapse, which means that for the first time in literal decades, the Browns have a shot at a division lead. And all I can say is literally everything in 2020 has gone wrong except for Browns football, and it's really fucking weird. So, just noted, in case I sound like I'm in a good mood tonight, it's because I am. So.
I saw a patient at work had like ESPN on in their room, and I was, they were talking about fucking wide receivers, or they're not really
Yeah.
pulling the standard like sports stuff, and they're like,
Yeah.
and the quarterbacks, they're really struggling in the quarterback area right now because all of their quarterbacks have COVID, and I was like, are you like,
Great.
it's such a weird time where they're like, yeah, the team's like, they're doing it in their traditional like sports talk voice where it's just like, yeah, they're really struggling this season because they all have this deadly disease, and it's kind of crazy, like, I'm like, what the fuck, like
Like the soundbite you would like drop into a movie about this.
yeah,
Yeah.
oh man, it was just such a weird experience. Anyway, go Browns.
Go Browns indeed. You guys are lucky we don't do birthday movies anymore, else I'd make you all watch fucking Draft Day. So, just know you dodged that bullet.
Sorry, I can't make it that week.
Yeah.
Whatever week.
Yeah, whatever week that is.
Yeah.
Hey, are we doing news, I guess?
What's the news? Yeah,
I
what's
don't-
other than the Browns are
You guys
doing
want
okay?
I've got no news. That's my only news.
Okay, so here, there's a list.
There was a
of
list
things
in the thing in the
thread.
email chain.
The
Yeah.
first of one. Now, Joe, it usually like is the
Joe's
guy.
the only one who
Yeah.
likes doing news, so why are we
Yeah.
even doing news?
Okay, let's.
Well, I mean,
if
we
he
can
gets
just-
back, let's tell him we did the news.
I mean, Alex, if you want to do the news, be
I
my
like
guest.
news. No one
I
likes
was
news.
I was gonna be true to Joe's memory. He's still alive, but he has like passed for the evening apparently.
You know, maybe we should just cancel
no,
this episode and just all eulogize Joe like he actually did just die, and give him like a real weird Twilight Zone. It's a Wonderful Lifestyle.
Remember that
experience.
time he wanted us to do the news? God.
Uh,
That guy.
Remember that time he had us all pose in front of a statue of Fonzie?
I do
did
remember
Give it.
that.
He wasn't there. He was not there for that. Actually, yeah.
He's not there for Brown Spawns.
No.
it
Wow,
might-
you, Bryce's fondest memory of Joe.
I'm pretty sure he was getting ready for the wedding that when
Well,
we were wandering around
so-
downtown Milwaukee. I think.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's because
But-
no one from Milwaukee will pose with the bronze fawns. It's for everyone else. It's not for folks from Milwaukee.
That's all right. I'll take it. It was great.
Yeah.
Terrifying,
Go for it.
grinning bronze visage. Jeez.
So what I was trying to say is like, so the news things that he has listed here are all like little like blurbs that he knew what they meant.
All right, just
but, like,
read the
the
blurb.
first
Just
one-
read the blurb, and
Well,
we'll
the
we'll
first-
react.
the
This
first-
is going to be
the
great.
The first one is Warner kerfuffle. Nolan and Bill.
Oh, okay. Well, so Warner Brothers, Warner
I don't
Brothers,
know what that means.
Warner Brothers is going to put out all of their new movies on the HBO Max streaming service next year. So, like the Dune movie is going to come to streaming as soon as
okay.
at the
What's
same
the
time it
date?
comes to theaters, assuming it goes to theaters.
Yeah, it's gonna go to theaters. It's gonna be day and date, so they'll go to it's similar to what they're doing with Wonder Woman 1984. So it'll be on HBO Max, and then whatever theaters and IMAX are open at that time. So they're doing that with their entire catalog.
When are they doing that?
I think
That's
I'm
for
on
2021.
I think I'm on the
But,
side
like,
of
like
Villeneuve.
January?
The whole
Yeah,
year,
start
all
the
year,
entire
Anthony.
slate.
Everything that comes
Yeah,
out in 2021.
Wonder Woman 1984 is the first of their slate to do this, and so they're going to they'll see what happens with it, but ultimately that is their plan, barring any sort of lawsuits from these filmmakers.
What do you know? Any of the other? What are some of the other? Like that's the most
Yeah,
relevant thing,
Matrix
right? Is the
4?
actual movies that are
Yeah,
coming.
Matrix 4, Dune.
Dune's the big one
Jonathan.
for me.
Yeah, I want to. There was other ones. At this point now, I'm like, there's so much talk about all of what was going on that was on that slate. There's like 21 of their big films are going to be going on both. Sorry, I'm going to look this
Right.
up.
And
You can
part
keep
of the
talking.
kerfuffle was that Christopher Nolan was very upset about it because he is an advocate for theaters and he likes to see his movies in theaters. And I mean,
Right.
that's what he makes his movies for, but also like some of the way that he went about handling some of that stuff this year specifically did not kind of rub me the wrong way, but I
mean,
get it.
frankly,
I think
I
that
do
the
think
bigger
that-
thing is like whether like how all the money stuff is going to resolve for all the people that worked on those movies.
I think
That's the big
so.
issue.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, I'm kind of on the Nolan Villeneuve side. Frankly, I think it's pretty short-sighted, and like I think, like you look at the difference of
I don't-
like even though, like the way that Disney's handling it, they like came out and they announced their whole new slate, and they basically said like, yeah, we're gonna go hard on streaming, but we're still committed to the theatrical experience, and they're gonna make money coming and going. So it's like I don't get what Warner's game plan is, and like here's the thing is like in that AT&T Time Warner company, like the budget of Warner Brothers is frankly a rounding error. So I'm like really wondering if this is like a way up the corporate ladder decision, like because I think it fundamentally doesn't make sense. I think you make more money if you hold back your slate than you do if you just kind of do this half-assed digital release.
I think I'll be very curious to see how that works because I think that people go to the movies because they want to go to the movies, and I don't think it's going to matter that much that they're also on TV at the same time. You know what I mean? Like those are two very different experiences. And for someone like me who doesn't really go to the movies, like whether or not, like I'm probably not going to go see Dune at the theater regardless. So it's just good for me that I could just watch it when it comes out and I don't have to like stress about going to a theater. But I think if it's safe, people are going to go to the movies because they want to go to the movies because that's a different kind of experience. And I don't have like I know a lot of people are really worried about theaters and stuff like that, but I think that's kind of a different, you know what I mean? Like you go to the movies to go to the movies. You're not, people don't go to them, like, especially most normal people who make up the bulk of the box office stuff. They go to the movies because they want to go someplace to do a thing. Not just because, like, a lot of times they don't even care what they watch. They're just going to the movies.
I'm really gonna laugh if the last movie that I ever saw in a theater is Abel Ferrara's Invasion of the Body Snatchers, because in a weird way that was just such a perfect note to go out on 2020. But yeah, I don't know. It's I mean, honestly, I'm more worried about Soul because like being basically on Disney Plus for free, because that means that Disney crunched the numbers and we're like, we can literally make a profit on this with no extra money, and like that speaks very dimly to the future of theaters. But
this is their opportunity to get people to give them money in perpetuity for their streaming service. So
right.
I think it's like a little bit more complicated though, because I feel like Warner Brothers, there's been I think Warner Brothers' decision feels like a panicked response, and Disney, it still doesn't fully understand their streaming potential. I think Disney will ultimately lose money on streaming right now, because that's just like how, like, their parks make them money and all their merchandise and stuff. I think, Eric, your point is like really valid in that Steven Soderbergh has since weighed in on this and has sort of said, like, the writing's been on the wall before COVID. Like, we have to understand streaming services and people who will watch things from their home versus going to a theater. Like, I will forever go to a theater, but I'm not going to a cinema anytime soon because I don't feel like it's safe. And so I think Warner Brothers is just assuming that it's not going to be safe for 2021, which they might be right, but it does feel a little bit panicked. And I think if I get why Christopher Nolan and Denis Villeneuve would be really upset about it if they had no option to weigh in.
Yeah.
I also think they're just mostly angry because Patty Jenkins got to weigh in. And there's something to be said for that as well.
Christopher Nolan's dunk on Warner Brothers was kind of partially made the whole thing worth it for me. What was his? They're coming to the worst streaming service or something like that.
We went from working for the best movie studio to the worst streaming service. And
that was a good time. Yeah. Also, it's worth noting that Angela ran a theater, or runs a theater, right? Still.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I have like a little bit of a different perspective, and so it is really hard for me to, like, you know, everyone, the death toll of physical cinemas, to me, I'm like, that can't be true, and I actually don't believe that it's true, but I do think that we have to like sort of treat streaming and like in-person exhibition as two different things at this point. Like, it'll forever be changed no matter what happens after this. I feel like we can't just go back to having the same box office numbers, etc. You know?
Right. I think that there's a lot of bands that are doing live streams of like music performances and stuff, and making some money doing that. But that's not going to replace like bands playing, going on tour, and people going to see bands playing live. And I feel kind of the same way about films. I know that, and some of that is just that people that love movies have been kind of panicking about theaters like disappearing for a long time, and I don't know, like I said, I'm not an expert, so my opinion doesn't really matter that much, but I think that's two different experiences. And like I said, most of the people that I know, like my friends and family that like to go to the movies, they don't even really think about it that hard. They just like, we're gonna go to the movies on Friday night, and then they just like throw a dart and go see something that they heard about on TV or whatever.
For sure.
So
it's weird because like I feel like the potential of streaming when it first started was that it was going to make like the small market movies like more accessible and like more available to people, and like because it used to be that you'd hear about something like at Sundance or whatever, and then it would disappear, and like if you were lucky, maybe 2 years after it was on the shelf, like it'd get like a run in 100 theaters, right? And like the idea was like, well, no, because like now you can hear about the cool movie at Sundance and instantly stream it. And like there have been some movies like say Portrait of a Lady on Fire that have like definitely benefited from that model. But it almost feels like all streaming has really done is, instead of like getting those movies more attention is just making mainstream movies worse. And like, I find it hard to be optimistic these days. Like I just genuinely do. So.
But
I mean,
the
that's
Gremlins-
true of everything.
Wow,
That's
right,
that's
exactly.
2020, Bryce. That's everything, dog.
Yeah, that is everything. True. So
Unfortunately, yeah, that's just kind of where we're at. Anyway, does anybody have anything else to say about that?
The only thing that I wanted to add was because we're now in the holiday season.
Mm-hmm.
Disney's new streaming service this year.
Yeah.
We had it because we had it for free, and now my kids are fucking hooked on Mickey Mouse, and they bought so much Mickey Mouse shit for for the holidays and stuff. Like that's all they wanted.
So
And
do you
it's like
well,
so
do
like
you-
I just want to point out to Angela's point, like Disney's operating under a different sort of paradigm than everybody else in this because
Disney's
some of that-
paradigm
like, it
is
doesn't
we
matter if
own
they
your
could take a
children,
bunch of
give
money.
us money, or we'll hold all these things
but
hostage.
it's like if
yeah.
okay, we lost some money on our streaming service, but we got your kids hooked on our characters.
Yeah.
right.
Yo, definitely.
and
they
like-
have like so many different buckets of money, whereas
Right.
like Netflix is not.
Netflix does not. Yeah,
That's
exactly.
not the same thing. Yeah, for sure.
So
Um,
are you saying
so-
that the like merchandise scheme for the Will Smith sports drama King Richard is not going to be as strong as
Probably
Disney?
not as much as Mickey Mouse. No.
No? Damn, I really misjudged this. I need to call my accountant later.
So,
It's kind of late now, but okay. Shit.
so my important question for you, Anthony, is: do you now walk into your children's room and in our Lee Ermery voice scream, "What is this Mickey Mouse shit"?
Yeah, pretty much daily.
Okay, good dad, good dad.
I mean, and speaking of Disney's streaming service, did you guys hear about that new TV show they're putting out? It's a Star Wars mob movie called Ray Liotta.
How do we ban someone?
How do we ban the person who's running the stream? So.
Yeah, is there a way we can like end the stream, but like
I couldn't
just for him?
tell if this was going to be serious or not.
Yeah, because they're making like 30,000 Star Wars things. I don't know. I guess it's that news. Is that the segue?
That's
Is that how we're
news.
getting
yeah,
out
I
of
don't
here?
know. Yeah, I
I
don't
don't
have much to say
care.
about that. I think that stuff is really
I don't
interesting, just because the people making those shows all are real interesting, smart, like young, creative people. So I hope that stuff's good. And
I guess
I've
I just
enjoyed The
can't give a shit.
Mandalorian. I had a good time watching that. So I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, what else is that's the big news. What can we run through the other stuff real quick and talk
Other
about
news.
Gremlins?
Can we talk about Oscar Isaac being in a ska band that played with the Warped Tour?
Absolutely, yes,
I
please.
saw
Let's talk
that.
about this.
Yeah.
We can't.
We're
There is
definitely-
Oscar Isaac news, but let's start with this.
We're
'cause this is
betraying
more
Joe by
important.
talking about the Oscar Isaac.
Yeah,
and
wait,
the-
did we,
it's
did I get here
Joe.
just in time
We
to talk about
revived
Oscar
him.
Isaac's ska band?
Yeah.
You
Yes,
did.
we did.
Hi,
Yeah,
Joe.
they broke up when he went to Juilliard.
Yeah, wait, but what about his band Closet Heterosexual? Why is that not being talked about more on Twitter?
That's fucking
That's
incredible.
I don't know.
Wait, that's their name?
Yeah, he is.
I didn't
in
see the
some
name.
interviews.
That is
That's
incredible.
one of
That's
the
one
bands
of
he
them,
was in.
yeah.
He was in several. Yeah.
Wow. So no wonder
Well,
you could play Lou
Joe,
on
good
Olympiad
timing. We
so
finished
well.
the news.
Yeah. Well, I think, it sounded to me like you just finished talking about the Warner Brothers thing. That sounds like it's.
Well,
as
we
far
went
as
in
you got.
reverse
Yeah.
order.
He saw right through us. Shit, Anthony, abort.
I will say, Joe, you should go back to the archive because I made a really good joke that you'll like and appreciate.
I do have to laugh
Yeah.
at wait. Hey guys, why are our episodes so long? We can't figure out how we're not making shorter, punchier
I like
episodes.
that Eric is sending it back in the archive for that joke.
Yeah. I'll have to check it out.
It's good.
It's good.
Anyway, what's up, Joe?
So not much. So what is that all we talked about so far as news
Well,
goes?
I don't. You
Yeah.
guys started, and then I showed up, and then I took over the stream, and I'm
now
on
we're talking
Twitch,
about all that
and then we
happening.
started over
Eric-
again, and then
Eric is,
I think
Eric is our
we.
leader now, Joe.
I'm-
I believe he's been proposed.
I'm recapping the podcast that we've done for the last 15 minutes. Then we had a
Right.
very scintillating discussion about the future of movie theaters. And now you showed up, and I think now we're contemporary with what's happening. So
Okay.
you could take over
I
and
think
just
we were
run.
recording when we
Do
talked
the
about Santa Claus.
you should do the news segment really fast. So
I
we can
feel
talk
like we
about
were just about
Gremlins.
to talk about Oscar Isaac playing Solid Snake and the Metal Gear. Like, there's a lot of news about movies that have been supposedly happening for a long time that I still don't really believe are going to happen.
Oscar Isaac sounds like great casting for that.
Oscar
actually.
Isaac does sound like great casting, and I'm honestly curious. I liked Kong Skull Island quite a bit. I'm curious to see what Jordan Vogt Roberts does with the material, but like I also don't know that a Metal Gear movie works because
You know, I bet you I'm the only one who actually saw this, but he kind of played a snake-like character in Triple Frontier and was actually pretty good at it. So that was a better
Hey,
movie
Bryce.
than it.
Triple
yeah.
Frontier, high five, dog.
Triple Frontier.
That movie's a
high
good fucking
five,
time,
dog,
man.
indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, well, while we're talking up the Netflix originals, yeah, not all bad from streaming. I also have a weird soft spot for The Highwaymen, in which late middle-aged Kevin Costner kills Bonnie and Clyde, and I swear to God, if there's a square premise for a movie, I have never heard it in my life. And I love it. I love it for that. So.
All right, what's next?
Anyway.
What's next on the list? Quick.
Anyway, sorry,
Next.
Joey, why doesn't a Metal Gear movie work? I mean, aside from that, video game movies never work.
We're never gonna get to
Gremlins.
any of the movies we watched.
Yeah, we should talk about Gremlins.
I think Joe's.
I think
dropped in
Joe's gone again. Yeah. Anyways, it doesn't work because the first Metal Gear Solid had a script longer than like 4 movies, and condensing that down is probably gonna.
You'd have to.
It's probably gonna take a lot of the shine off of it, but I mean, it's gonna take the good and the bad away from it. So.
The part where they
Anyways.
talk about your memory card is going to be a little awkward, but
Everybody has the list. Is there anything on that list of new stuff that anybody really feels we need to talk about?
no.
I advocated for skipping this entire section.
All right.
So.
I just really wanted to talk about Oscar Isaac and the Warp Tour.
Thank you.
Not
I thank you for that.
I respect that.
I
You don't know this-
definitely want to send you photos.
You've made a very specific friend of mine's day, so thank you very much.
Then it's settled. Joe sucks. The news sucks. Oscar Isaac, call me.
Next.
Let's
Yeah.
move on.
Next. All right.
Oscar
It's
Oscar Isaac rules and Gremlins rules.
Gremlins also rules.
Yeah.
Oh, that was really good. You picked
Yeah,
a
we
bad
did it.
quote earlier, but then you just totally redeemed yourself.
Why?
Great transition.
Thank you.
The only thing better than a great transition is spending 2 minutes congratulating someone on making a great transition. It's my favorite thing in podcasts. Anyways, so yeah, it's Christmas. It's Gremlins time. You guys? We all watch Gremlins. Gremlins rules. We knew that going in, I think.
Gremlins
Is there anybody
I did
that
not
hadn't
know that
seen?
Now is
going
the,
in.
now is
Actually-
the time for Ethan to tell his story.
All right, Ethan.
Did I tell
what's
the story already?
What's
or
your
was that
story?
lost?
It's
Oh.
lost to time.
I don't know.
If it
Okay,
was before I got here, it was lost to time.
I was positive when I turned this on that I had seen this movie before, and it turned out that I hadn't. It took me like 5 or 10 minutes to figure it out, and it turns out that I believe I had just seen the second movie, maybe many times, and I had played the video game, of course, of the second movie, which is excellent.
Oh
One of the
yeah,
best soundtracks in
classic.
NES
Yeah.
history.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hadn't seen this, and it's amazing. And I'm sorry that I hadn't seen it, but now that problem is fixed.
It's a pretty different movie than the second one. Although it's also kind of exactly the same movie in a weird way.
It was long enough ago that I saw the second one that I couldn't really have even
The second one
I thought
kind
that
of
it was going to come flooding back to me. And it
yeah.
didn't.
The second one
Actually,
kind of doubles down on the cartoon violence and the movie references and stuff, but
I love the second one. I think the second one is maybe the greatest prank ever played on the studio system. I mean,
Yeah.
it basically allowed Joe Dante to make a movie that was a Mad Magazine parody of itself.
Yeah.
I think it's the closest that you're ever going to get to a major studio version of Playtime. Like, it's just one big long meta joke on itself, and it's one of a kind. I love it so much.
it's very fun. And also
I
it's
love
like
it
a
so much
huge
that not
failure.
even a Donald Trump stand-in character can ruin it. See also Batman Returns. So
But we're not talking about Gremlins 2. Maybe we'll do that next year. This year we're talking about the first Gremlins, which
Which I had a weird experience when I was a teenager and I watched this, and I
Uh-huh.
suddenly realized this movie was a horror movie.
Okay.
I watched it as a kid, but like I was more in it for the cartoon violence, and like I didn't realize that it was supposed to be scary. And when I was older, I was like, maybe this was supposed to be scary. Like I didn't like I don't like I can't explain it.
I mean,
I was a dumb
it along with Ghostbusters kind of invents like the modern like horror comedy thing, right? Because this was released the same day as Ghostbusters, and there had been like some
What a
things that were
day.
kind of like that, right? That came out earlier in the '80s, but
Yeah.
like this definitely like codified a like new subgenre of film.
So apparently the original. I mean, God, do we have to summarize Gremlins? I feel like we're getting into this without.
I don't.
giving
Do we
any
need? I don't
background.
know if we really need a plot summary of the movie necessarily. I feel like
Okay.
Gremlins was like a huge hit, right? It was like the fourth biggest box office movie of 1984, and it's also like the reason why the PG-13 designation exists.
Basically, an old white guy does some culture appropriation that goes very badly for a small town, and
It's one of the things that does not.
mayhem ensues.
I was gonna say, one of the things that doesn't hold up so well about Gremlins is the mystical Asian culture stuff that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it almost feels like it's so over the top that it's almost like
It's a little
hard to get
self-aware,
upset
but-
about. But yeah, it is what it is. You know, if that's gonna ruin the movie for you, then stay away, I guess. But I prefer to watch fucking Gremlins. So what can I tell you? But yeah, they bring home a magical little cute pet, and they're not supposed to feed it after midnight, get it wet, or what's the last one? Or show it bright
No
light.
sunlight.
And they do all three of those things, and it spawns a bunch of gremlins. But anyway, I guess the first two Gremlins films were. I mean, the first Gremlins script was apparently like a much harder core horror script, which is hilarious because Chris Columbus wrote it. But then when Joe Dante came on, like they really amped up the anarchic and the comedic elements. It's kind of ironic because this is one of his most like staid movies in a way, or most like conventional, and that still just like makes it crazier than like 95% of Hollywood product. So it's kind of there's a lot of different tones that this movie's walking, and I think it does. If I have to pinpoint like the thing that makes it the classic, it's just how deftly it's able to change between those tones.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was the action cast.
I was gonna say
That's
I don't mean
Gremlins.
to dominate the Gremlins conversation, but is anyone else gonna say something about Gremlins? So
Yeah, I hadn't watched it since I was it's been at least 25 years. So actually, I had a similar experience to Ethan. Even though I had seen it, it was kind of like when the dog is strung up in the lights, I was like, wow, I was a little kid watching this and thought it was funny.
Yeah.
Like the horror elements, I think were really lost on me because it was so cartoony. And like, obviously as a child, I did not understand camp. And just some of like the sort of mild mystical xenophobia was strange, but particularly funny in the end for me when the dad was like, you know what? You're right. I'm so sorry. We really screwed that up.
White people fucked everything up again.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, like what? But really, I like the dog in the lights. I just want to hang on that scene for a second but like, why? Like, were they trying to hang the dog?
Well,
Well, but I think
that's one of those things that, like, if according to the trivia or whatever, the interviews and stuff, the commentary that's come out later, like originally, like they were supposed to like kill and eat the dog. They were also like originally the Gremlins murdered the mother, and then when the kid came back home, when Billy showed back up, like they rolled the head down the stairs towards him. Like that the movie was originally like a much more hardcore type thing than it is in what it actually is.
I couldn't. Yeah, it was funny because as like watching it, the expectations of certain like horror generic conventions, I was thinking like the mom is surely going to die. They're giving a lot of screen time to her stabbing these creatures and moving around the house, and so when she doesn't die, it feels weirdly unsatisfying.
Well, I like when we talk about like how the movie like switches between horror and not, like, to me, like, the whole mom attack scene, I think, is a fucking banger. Like, just like the setup and the "Do you hear what I hear" music cue, and like, it's like I think that's a great sequence. The gore gag in the microwave, like, it plays it pretty much straight in that scene, and like, it's just a blast to watch.
Yeah, one of the things I like most about that movie is that it borrows a lot of, there's like a ton of like suburban or like small town like myths and stuff that it plays into to like make that feel like a place. Like there's like the pet in the microwave thing. There's the drunk guy that's like the xenophobic, anti-foreign whatever. There's the fact that Phoebe Cates' dad. Yeah, the fact that Phoebe Cates' dad was killed when he was trying to climb down a chimney as Santa Claus and fell and broke his neck. I feel like it's just like, it's one of the things that I also, that's really weird about the Gremlins is that the first like 15 or 20 minutes of the movie is kind of establishing all this small town stuff. But then they never really visit those characters again. It feels like there was probably like 30 minutes of a lot of that stuff. I guess she kind of gets her comeuppance, right? The rich lady does.
Here's why I think this movie is so good. And I think it's the underlying tension between those two things.
With the chair.
Well, because
chair. That's a different thing.
I think people talk a lot about how cynical this movie is, and like, true, you can't have the Phoebe Cates Santa story and not have a movie that's like mean and cynical as fuck. That being said, I almost feel like that element's overstated because like the opening 15 minutes of this movie and the care it takes in establishing this kind of Norman Rockwell town is like so well done. And like, so here's the thing is like, yes, Joe Dante loves the fucking Looney Tunes and he loves horror movies and he loves monsters and he loves gore, but like, I'm willing to bet you that Joe Dante loves Frank Capra and Norman Rockwell and all that just as much. It reminds.
Sorry, continue. Sorry.
No, I'm just saying it reminds me of the like, because he didn't get to do as much of it in his career, but like, if you ever watched the movie he made, Matinee, it's like a very nostalgic, very loving tribute to like the William Castle films, and it's a register he didn't often get to work in, but that doesn't mean that I don't think he believes in it. And so like, as cynical as this movie is, like, it never feels like it's not playing fair or it's like being actively misanthropic. And I feel like a lot of it is it reminds me of the story of Disney where in The Lady and the Tramp they both wake up after sleeping together, making it the weirdly most explicit sex scene in a Disney movie. But enough about dogs fucking. But when they look out, she looks at like the domestic vista, and he looks out at the wilderness.
Boy, I came back at a weird time.
And Disney apparently gave the note to make both look just as appealing. And like, I really do think that Joe Dante, kind of in the same way, loves order just as much as he loves chaos. Like, he really likes building this suburbia so he can then tear it down. And
Joe, I think that Bryce is basically saying that this movie is like if Blue Velvet were made by an incredibly normal guy.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm
actually
saying.
It's funny that you mentioned Frank Capra, right? Because like one of the early scenes in the movie.
What the fuck is going on?
Well, no, it shows them watching It's a Wonderful Life is on the TV during the segment of the movie where they're establishing like the small town and the people that live there, right? And then like there's another great mid transition when stuff starts to go wrong. I forget which movie it is specifically. And then right before the Gremlins show up and everything goes to hell, they show them watching Invasion of the Body Snatchers, right? Like that's none of that stuff is a coincidence. Like that's all very intentional, like put in the movie for a reason.
Forget Snow White.
And it's
Snow White, and they're loving it.
Can you guys imagine Disney letting a different studio
Yeah,
put a
right.
clip of one of their most famous movies in it now. Like that's
You know, I gotta
84, there was a lot of desperation in Disney.
yeah,
I
right.
gotta laugh. I pulled up. I was on Disney Plus the other day, and I pulled up the Don Bluth movie, the small one, and I just typed in Don Bluth to look for it, and I had this moment of like stomach churning irony, seeing that Don Bluth's Anastasia is on Disney Plus when like Don Bluth literally spent his entire career never trying to make anything for Disney again, and I literally like had an involuntary reaction where I muttered to myself, "Ain't that some shit?" Like it's just like
It fucking
This-
figures to be something
yeah,
like this.
yes, yeah. It really does, Alex. It
It really does. That wasn't it. Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. Can we talk about how good the fucking cast is on this? I mean, you know, Zach Galligan and Phoebe Cates are pretty much, you know, the straight men, and then, but you've got Dick Miller, like we've already said, Kings Recognize Kings. You got Glenn Turman, who I always love to see. You know,
Corey
Chuck
Feldman.
Jones, Corey
Corey
Feldman.
Feldman.
Or
Chuck
Feldman,
Jones has a cameo. Like it's just it is this movie, like I said, just top to bottom. It's a fucking banger.
It is.
Right,
Yeah,
man.
it does have a great cast. It's also, it's like, oh crap. Sorry. I figured out how to do something in this game, and I'm having my short circuiting my brain while I'm also trying to talk about Gremlins. I should.
You're gonna talk about how good
should reset
Gizmo
my
is.
notes. Well, let's talk about. Let's talk
Gizmo.
about.
Miss
The
Eagle.
effects are great.
Well, I was
All
gonna say we
practical
could talk
effects.
about. I really, yeah, well, yeah, right. I mean, that's obviously the reason that I love this movie the most is that it has a bunch of animatronics and stop motion animation and amazing puppets, and that stuff
But you hated
is
puppets.
catnip for me. Obviously, yeah, I hate puppets. They're the worst.
Yeah. Famous.
It's a hard
puppet
movie to
hater,
talk
Eric.
about. It's so good. And like I just saw it, so it's all new to me. But still, it's like, yeah, that's
Yeah.
good.
So
Yeah,
I'm a
that's
little.
good.
I mean, like I'm genuinely kind of just curious though. Like I want to hit this first impression thing more. So like, did you have a lot of preconceptions going into it? Like, what was like? Because it's a wild ride if you don't know what to expect.
Well, to be honest, one of my only preconceptions going in, I couldn't recall the movie, of course. It later turned out that that's because I had never seen it. But I thought that I was like just not remembering it properly. So really, the only thing I carried into it is that I was looking for some kind of thread of basically Reagan era politics, and I would say I found it. Would you like me to go there now?
Please,
Oh, please, yes.
by all
Are
means.
you kidding me?
that's the only thing I want. I don't want everything we've said to this point is foreplay for this.
I mean,
Okay,
I'm
so-
guessing that I'm guessing it has to do with Mrs. Deagle, or no?
Sort of. I think that she's like emblematic. I mean, well, maybe emblematic's the wrong word. Like she's playing herself, economically speaking. I feel like this movie is about the rise of credit through the 80s and the post-Reagan era. I feel like basically the story of this movie is there's this force that's mysterious. It's orientalized in the beginning, which is not part of this allegory, but it's a mysterious force. No one really understands it, but it seems really cool and it seems really cute because it solves a problem. It's like for the dad, it solves the problem of getting a good gift for his son. But like we would see like, oh, I can take out a credit card, I can go to the store and I can get whatever I want.
Mhm.
But there's this arcane set of rules of what you can and can't do with it, and they're hard to hold in your head, like you know, completely at any one time. Harder, of course, in real life than like don't get it wet or feed it after midnight. But it's like too many rules. You're going to break them, and when you break them, shit just starts getting worse and worse. And I feel like that's probably not what they meant to do. But the movie does take place. It takes place in this like Frank Capra type small town, but it's also a super economically depressed town. Like everyone's sad. Like there's drunks who've had like some kind of recent tragedy, lost their job. There's people whose like parents have been killed. People are stressed about, oh, I'm not gonna have a good present for my kids. So like it takes place in not like poverty, but like a weird idealized like 1950s version of American poverty, and it's like everyone figures out this like cool thing that like brings them some joy in this life of sadness, but as soon as they
It's
step
not what they
outside the
thought.
rules of this thing, like all hell breaks loose. So and then like you like the water
And-
drops on the at the end of the movie when the is it Stripe that goes in the pool and turns into the giant. Yeah, that's like a payday loan store basically.
I'm not gonna lie, I actually kind of love this thing. So I think that really works.
And Ethan, when all the shit goes to hell, they like all the stuff that they previously had starts breaking and being taken away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I like it.
I think
Although
the
it's like
bomb
it's
was
got a very
really
wish
emblematic of
fulfillment style ending because I mean, of course, in real life, Deagle does not get rocketed out of her house and die on her little lift chair like Deagle
definitely not.
runs the world, and they don't kill all the. Yeah, in this movie, they get to eat the rich.
Nice. Angela, were you gonna say something?
Yeah, I was gonna say actually I think Ethan, I agree with you. I think the mom is really like is the one that sort of represents that in a way in which she knows her husband's failing inventions. Like the way in which they all humor him in the house is sort of deeply sad. In that look, he can't support them, and yet they all kind of pretend like his inventions are great and all of this is working. Like that seems to be the through line of this film, and how the kid works at a bank, and there's all the influence or the not influences the different ways in which Joe Dante points out the failures of capitalism at the beginning. Like one of y'all said, like the characters they set up, like that woman and her two kids, who's basically like, "Please don't evict us." And you feel like there's going to be a story there, and she's just basically like, "Well, you know what you're asking Santa for Christmas," and they kind of drop that and then take it up in different ways. So I'm right there with you.
Yeah, I think Joe Dante is definitely an anarchist, so I think there's some of that there. I just want to get back to like the tone of this movie and like why it's like it's just so gleeful, and like we talked about that earlier draft, and frankly I don't want to see that movie, and not just because like I like Joe Dante a lot more than I like Chris Columbus, and like I love me some 80s hardcore horror, but like the gritty hard R Gremlins just fundamentally does not sound like as fun as interesting as the movie we got. And like it really is like the tone, because like so much of what makes the movie fun to watch is like the Gremlins aren't just malicious, but they're gleefully malicious. Like they enjoy the shit they're doing, and they go the extra mile. Like I think of like the beat of them like singing the Christmas carols in front of Mrs. Deagle's house before they kill her. Like there's no need for them to do it, and there's like this constant reaction shot that you get of like them doing some bit of mayhem and then stopping and looking at each other and like laughing. And I just imagine like the face, like that being Dante's face as he's tweaking these gags, basically like coming up with these beats and stuff, and just laughing his ass off to himself that he's like got Steven Spielberg in his corner and now suddenly has the money and shit to do this, when before he was working on Corman budgets and never had like the chance to do anything on this scale. Like there's just this real sense of like glee at like these creative limitations being taken off of, and being unshackled, and it translates to the movie. Like I feel like you really get the sense of like man, I'm just gonna go nuts and just shoot for anything I've ever wanted to do in a flick with these resources, and it makes like this movie that's very dark at times, like almost ebullient. Like it's just always fun to watch. There's always something going on, like some
I think
visual
one of the other
gag.
things that would have been lost if it was a much darker movie is that I think it seems like if that's how the movie was originally planned, some of the adjustments they had to make the Gremlins more like kind of mischief loving as opposed to just like brutal, wild animals, is that they had to kind of
those are
imbue them
critters.
with, and they have like an understanding of our customs and technologies and norms that they play off of, which is ridiculous. But I just like, after the first few scenes, I was just like, okay, they get it. Like, they know how we live, and they think it's funny.
Well, they watch TV, yeah. I mean, I'm looking at my notes, and I literally have a note that says "electrocuted artichoke" in the foreground, double question mark, and like that's the thing. Like every scene and almost every shot, like has a gag in it, or just some weird visual idea, or just like some like little signature touch. And like, you know, when we talk about like why I'm unoptimistic about like movies these days, and especially mainstream movies, it's not because there aren't people who are doing like good work, and it's not because there's not fun movies coming out, because like, yes, there, as long as there's cinema, there will be worthwhile films coming out. But like a film like
Don't
this,
challenge them, bro.
Hey, Joe's
like
back.
this that is absolutely like solidly in the mainstream, that's absolutely solidly in pop culture, and is like allowed to be this eccentric and this weird and this personalized. Like, I feel like this film does not get made anymore, and not just because Disney has money. Like,
Well,
yeah, this is not coming out on Netflix.
But this is one of the many, like, Steven Spielberg likes this filmmaker, so he's going to bankroll him into making a movie, right? And then put his name on it, and so then everybody thinks it's a Steven Spielberg movie, even though it's not. See also Poltergeist. See also, I think probably, I mean, see also The Goonies, which was a Richard Donner film, and obviously he was more established than Joe Dante or Toby Hooper, but you know, I mean,
yeah, Don Bluth, who we were just talking about.
Yes, right. I caught part of that. Yeah. But you know, this, I think that if somebody like Spielberg, or even Spielberg himself, wanted to see this movie made now, although I feel like this is another one that we talked about there being a remake during the original run of this show.
Right.
And
there is Gremlins 3 is supposed to be in some sort of development right now, so
right, allegedly,
we'll see.
But that's,
yeah.
But I mean, I don't know how much. So if I'm repeating things you guys already said, tell me to just next me, I guess.
Next.
But, you guys were kind of talking about it, but this movie, I think, what I really love about this movie is that it operates on cartoon logic.
Yeah.
Like Mrs. Deagle is Cruella de Vil, basically. And also, the Gremlins are the true heroes of this movie because they yeet her ass out the window, and it's one of the most satisfying moments in film history.
It is a wonderfully satisfying beat, for sure.
So, but it's like, she's ridiculous, and the fact that when they're Mogwai still, like Stripe is an asshole even when he's a Mogwai.
Well, can we go?
Ties up the dog in the Christmas lights, and like.
Can we go back to that Deagle beat, because I feel like that kind of demonstrates like what the movie does well, because like, yeah, because it's like it's just cartoonish enough that you don't have to feel any guilt watching it. You don't watch like the bones split through her skin when she like hits the ground, or like her skull get crushed or whatever. But it also plays mean enough that it's like super fucking satisfying, and like it's hard enough to get like that tone for a shot or a scene, and this movie gets it for like 96 minutes straight. Like it's just like.
I think the Deagle beat is also something that I never really fully registered until tonight, was that when she comes out,
Deagle beat.
Stop saying Deagle beat, or
when she steps outside, right? When she thinks the Gremlin carolers are just kids caroling, she has a pitcher of water in her hand. She was going to splash children with water while it's freezing outside.
All of her cats are named out of money.
Her house.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right.
Yeah.
She is just a hateful bitch, and I think even if the bones had gone through her skin or whatever, I still would have found it satisfying, because she wants to slowly kill a dog and like give children pneumonia on purpose because she's a cartoon villain.
But I'm just saying that this movie knows how to walk its lines.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's a masterpiece of tonal control.
Yeah. The line where, where she just says straight up that she's gonna kill the dog slowly.
Yes.
That wouldn't be in a movie now.
Not in a PG movie, that's for sure.
PG, right.
Have we talked about this movie?
Yeah, we did. We talked about it, yeah. PG-13 was basically invented for this. I have a question. This is very important. If you had to have one of Rand Peltzer's inventions in your home, which one would you pick? You have to have one. but you get to pick which one it is.
I'd go with the electrified artichoke. Straight up. Don't know what it does, but it looks fun.
So
I like
do
the
we-
coffee machine that just squirts out
walkie-talkie
like little turds. I like that one.
Yeah, I feel like if you could master that.
if you like your coffee,
Coffee turds.
be of slime.
Yeah.
It would be like a whole different class of coffee.
Yeah, exactly.
What,
Right.
Angela, what were you saying?
Actually, wait, no, I take mine back. The orange juicer, because how did one orange produce so much juice?
Oh,
Yes,
that's
I have that
job.
note. I have that note that Rand inadvertently solved like the world hunger crisis, right?
The oranges in this movie operate on the Evil Dead logic of bodies.
Yeah.
Like the amount of blood in a human body in an Evil Dead movie is equivalent to the amount of juice in an orange in this movie. Did we talk about how the Gremlins make all the Peltzer shit work? Have we touched
No,
on that?
I don't think I've noticed that.
I didn't what?
So when the Gremlins are in the Peltzer house, his car starts working. The mixer works to murder the shit out of that gremlin. Everything in the Peltzer house works when the Gremlins are in there, and it doesn't work everywhere else. But it doesn't work, you know. The Gremlins have the opposite effect on the Peltzer household.
That's a great catch. I never noticed that.
Huh. I like that.
I'll be more impressed when they get that egg thing to work.
Yeah, right.
So do we get to so do we want to talk about, I feel like we've talked about like all the early beats of the movie. I just want to touch on the bar scene, which is, I love that there's no like narrative reason for that bar scene to exist at all. It's just 5 minutes of riffing and
Wacky
gags and
antics.
crazy-
Why
And,
is
like I said, I think I kind of said inadvertently all I had wanted to say about Gremlins 2, but all I'll add is that if you've never seen it, it's basically that 5-minute sequence blown up to feature length, and it's beautiful. So
Gremlins 2 is up there with Texas Chainsaw 2 among the great like tonal shifts for a sequel. Not a total tonal shift, less of one than Texas Chainsaw for sure. But
I described it as a Mad Magazine parody of itself, and I really don't think the studio understood what was bankrolling, and it's beautiful. Like I consider Gremlins 2 basically outsider art. Like it's great. It's one of the greatest pranks pulled on capitalism of all time.
And it has Hulk
Right,
Hogan.
I thought the bar scene was a beautiful moment of class consciousness because we usually when you've got fiction about the poor, it focuses on kind of like the hard laboring class and ignores the service class, which is also a part of the working class.
Why
So we get to
is
see the plight of the service class on Christmas, working alone, working a Christmas shift. You know.
Once again, I think this is an excellent movie.
And a bunch of the patrons are assholes. That's another great cartoon logic moment in this movie. She's serving the Gremlins.
Right?
As though they were
Why?
normal
That's what I was gonna say.
customers.
Why is she serving the Gremlins? I'm not 100% clear on this.
I mean, I think she's just trying to have
Is it
Gremlins
just
not murder her,
under
so she's like-
duress? Yeah.
Man,
she's trying to placate them, and they think it's funny. So it works.
she needs
So-
the job.
So who
Yeah,
I
right.
want to go around the table. I want everybody to answer this. Who is your favorite Gremlin in the bar? Well, in the whole movie, I guess, but the bar scene is where you get so
I
many.
mean,
of
the
them.
one I enjoyed the most is the one that tries to flash her. That one is really, that's an incredible gremlin. Yeah.
Alex, what's your favorite Gremlin? Which Gremlin's your favorite Gremlin?
This is gonna be good.
None.
Alex, that's not funny.
I love all of them.
Because the breakdancing, the flash dance Gremlin is also really good.
I'm gonna go with the hand puppet Gremlin in that scene. You know.
Which one, Bryce?
The hand puppet one, the one who, I forget if
Oh
it's...
yeah.
The ones, the puppet with the Punch and Judy show.
Gremlin,
Yeah.
The detective Gremlin is sitting at the table, and hand puppet Gremlin comes up to mess with him.
Yeah.
I like a gremlin that wasn't shown on screen, which is they don't have.
It's about the gremlins
cigarettes.
they don't show you. Yeah.
They don't have cigarettes in that scene. They have cigars, and there's no cigar vending machine. So one of those gremlins bought cigars. And that's my favorite gremlin.
Generous.
Angela, which is your favorite Gremlin?
How can I follow that?
Fair.
The logic there is really the flash dance one is really my favorite.
Oh yeah.
Flashdance Gremlin is pretty great.
It's really
Yeah.
good.
Wait, but can we also talk about her name's Kate, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
The story of her dad dying in Christmas.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna lie. Like I feel like that is a bridge too far. I feel like on its own, in a perfect little microcosm, like it's a great scene and a great monologue and like just like fucking mean, but like it feels like just a shade too mean for the rest of the movie. And like I feel
it's a little too bleak for the murdering puppets movie.
I feel like well, actually, you know,
the Gremlins have gone too far. Damn it!
It's the reason why you can't show this kid to like an 8 or 9-year-old, and like that would be like.
I definitely saw this movie when I was 8 or 9.
Yeah, definitely. I don't remember this part at all.
I saw this movie definitely for the first time post believing in Santa, and frankly, I'm glad I did because like I'm not to be like someone think of the children, but like let's face it, that would be like the shittiest possible way to find out that there's no Santa. You know,
would
so,
be
aside from actually being.
I think that's the point of the monologue.
Right? No, I know that, but I'm just saying like it would also finding out from this movie in that monologue. Right. And here's the thing is that this is actually the one thing that I'm gonna say that I think that Krampus does do better than Gremlins is like Krampus, even though it's making like a lot of like fun, like basically the target of its satire is why do people have to be assholes at Christmas? It's not like taking aim at the holiday itself or being like you're stupid if you want to celebrate Christmas. It's like taking aim at the bad behavior that the holiday like engenders, and like I feel like this goes like a step like too far and is like it crosses the line into assholishness, like frankly, like to me, like of just being like, do you like Christmas? Well, fuck you, you know. And,
puppets murdering people is fine, but when you start to criticize Christmas itself, that's a step too far for Bryce. Yeah. Well, I think because it's a classic urban legend, I think it works. Like it's not a thing without context. It's a movie full of references to, like I said before, urban legends and other movies and things like that, and just popular culture in general. And I like that is a thing that existed before this movie came out.
I also don't think the movie is taking her side in the hating Christmas thing. It's just saying that it understands why she does. But you are being a little Maud Flanders here.
This commercialism is ruining Christmas.
It's just, hey, I'm just talking about like.
Bryce, go back to your Charlie Brown Christmas special. Get the fuck out of here.
Fine, I will.
Anthony has not yet given his.
That's a Muppets Christmas Carol, sir. To you, thank you very much.
The problem with the Muppet Christmas Carol is that it all revolves around a human.
There's no problem with a Muppet's Christmas Carol.
The main character is not a Muppet. That's the problem with a Muppet.
Michael Caine plays that movie like he's playing against Gary Oldman. It is a magnificent performance. He never winks once. I will not hear the slander, sir.
And Rizzo the Rat plays himself.
Exactly. And he kisses Gonzo on the nose after an argument, and it is dear.
Statler and Waldorf as two Marleys is pretty inspired, I will say that.
They should have known their evil deeds would put them both in shackles. Cast and bound in double iron. By the way, as freedom comes from giving love, and prison comes with hate.
I feel like we have enough movies to talk about tonight without talking about
Joe. This is what you get.
Gremlins 2 and a Muppet Christmas Carol next year.
Anthony still has not disclosed his favorite Gremlin.
My favorite Gremlin are the three that are drunk together and they're singing, and one's got like 3 or 4 cigarettes sticking out of his mouth. They're all singing this like horrible song. I don't know. I always like those guys for some reason.
Yeah.
That's it. I don't have a. Yeah.
I'm still curious about the cigar buying Gremlin. Now
There's a deleted scene.
I really need to know who that is.
I do also like the ski mask one.
Yeah, the one who tries to rob her on her way out.
Yeah, because he's bad, and the other ones are not. I guess.
Right. Where did they find guns tiny enough for Gremlin? Yeah. They have like Magnum revolvers, but they're tiny for Gremlin hands.
It's like a 22.
Children guns.
Yeah, guns for children.
Yeah. What do you arm your children with? Yeah.
Well, if we talk about rare exports, we can talk about what you arm children with. Apparently, the answer is a 12-gauge shotgun, but we'll save that for rare exports, I suppose.
Okay.
Anyway,
I mean, what we got the movie theater scene and then the final showdown. We already kind of referenced Snow White and You're Loving It, one of the best one-liners in the movie. And then the final showdown is
Tarantino stole the finale of Inglourious Bastards from this movie.
yes, yep.
This is true.
Also, did Fatal Attraction steal putting an animal in a microwave from this?
I thought she boils the rabbit in that, doesn't she?
She does. Is
Stovetop.
there another film in which they put an animal in a microwave?
I mean, it's like a classic urban legend, right?
In Maniac Mansion,
it's usually a
for
hamster. Yeah.
In the first revision of Maniac Mansion on the NES, you can microwave the hamster and give it to weird cousin Ed, and then he kills you. It's one of the few ways you can die in that game. But only in the early. If you got a newer copy, a more recent copy, they took out the ability to microwave the hamster.
That was too risque for Nintendo.
Yeah.
But the effect of microwave, I'm sure you guys talked about the effects when I was having trouble with my internet. But the effect of the exploding gremlin in the microwave is A+, fantastic practical effects.
Chef's kiss right there.
Yes.
Yeah, you didn't miss much. We definitely weren't impressed with the effects across the board.
No, not impressed.
Yeah.
Well established. If there's one thing that I really don't like, it's movies with it's puppets.
The stop motion crowd of gremlins coming down the street. I'm sure
that's that's the one effect in the whole movie that kind of doesn't work. It's a real shame.
But I still kind of like it. I mean, it's like the scene of Belial trashing the hotel room in a basket case. Like, it's so obvious, but I'm still like, it's so charming. I still love it.
One of my favorite effects is when the door was closing on the back, like the boiler room of the theater, and all the hands popping out. Definitely not like one of the highest effort effects in the movie, but it's still a really, really good one.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's a lot of that stuff. There's a lot of really like things that I definitely didn't notice when I saw this as a kid, but now I notice like, oh, that's a clever way to not have to like move the gremlin around across the room, right? Is like, they cut away and then they cut back and there's just a hole in the door where the gremlin skittered. Like when he's in this.
Well, there he goes. See you later, Joe. That time we got some static. That was really exciting.
Yeah, it was good.
I was gonna say, yeah, because there he's back.
Whoa. Are you back?
Anyway, a lot of the movie. One of the reasons that they came up with the rule that the gremlins couldn't be in bright light is because the effects didn't work as well in light. So they just like added that in as part of the plot to give a reason for why most of the movie takes place in the dark.
That's a Spielberg fix right there.
Yeah,
I feel like that's got a set all over it.
Joe's back.
Hey, it's Joe.
I didn't leave again.
Also, what do you guys?
Hear you for a while.
Don't
worry about it.
Ranking of movie dogs. Where does Barney fit? Pretty high, right? Barney's a great dog. I'm not the only one who feels this way, right?
Barney unties himself and then tries to go after Mrs. Deagle, so he's like an A+ good dog for sure.
All right.
I wasn't ready for that question. I don't know what dog would surpass him.
I don't know. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Is Barney's a pretty tough. He's a good, good dog.
The dog in the Road Warrior is a pretty good dog.
That's a good dog. Yeah.
The dog in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is one of the best movie dogs.
Brandy.
Yeah, Brandy's a good dog.
Yeah, Brandy's an extremely good dog. Yeah.
She's the best part of that entire film.
I wouldn't even argue with that.
I don't know if that's meant to be a slight on the film or just like an elevation of what a good.
I like that movie, and I don't disagree. So.
Yeah, same here.
That feels like a whole different podcast for me to answer that question. So let's stick with an extra supremely good dog.
Okay.
Why not both?
Fair enough.
I want to have that podcast.
All right. Well, is there anything else that we need to talk about Gremlins related?
This movie made me wonder what's behind the screen when I was in a theater for like, I think I still think about that.
That's a great shot. That is an amazing. It's one of my favorite, one of the most memorable shots in movie history for me. Anyways, yeah, that is one of the defining shots.
The
of
silhouettes
Gremlins.
of the Gremlins.
Yeah, when they go behind the screen and then the Gremlins come and then you see the silhouettes of the Gremlins on the backside.
Every
of the screen.
time I see this movie, I remember that's where that came from in my brain.
Yeah. So I think the only other thing I had to say is you guys might have talked about this already, like if anybody remembers when they were kids, but this is one of the first like scary movies I saw as a very young child. And the scene of in the department store when Stripe has the saw blades, like that image stuck with me as it scared and the swimming pool, which now one of the most delightful images in this movie is Stripe holding his nose and cannonballing to the bottom of the pool. But as a child, seeing like the way the water bubbles up and it gets dark and there's like lightning flashes as he's multiplying, that scared the hell out of me.
That's good.
And him with the saw blade.
I mean, him blowing his nose on the what's their names, the Peltzer's curtains when he's first when he first comes. I think that's really great. All right, well. If we don't have anything else to say, I think it's time we've talked about it a lot on the Action Cast, but we need to do the ranking of the tiny monsters from the 80s list before we can officially put a bow on this. So I think the most fun way to do this is to like the conceit is shut up, Joe, shut up. The conceit is that you are joining a tiny army of these, you have armies of these creatures and they're all gonna fight, and then you have to try and rank which one, like who wins, like which army is it that
who's gonna be your
who's
army
in first place, who's in second place.
I'm gonna bow out right now because none of these movies has ever appealed to me, and I have literally never seen one of the Gremlins ripoffs. So life is too fucking
Bryce,
short.
what the fuck are you doing, man?
I know.
Right.
I'm not watching Goonies or Critters or Trolls.
He comes out of a toilet. It's in the box art, and then in the second one, there's two of them coming out of a tolet.
You guys have a really nice. You guys really enjoy your 20 minutes here.
It doesn't have to take that long. I think Gremlins. I think Gremlins is number one because of the ease with which Gremlins can make more Gremlins. Like also, Gremlins
smarter than.
Yeah, well, I don't know. The Ghoulies are pretty clever. I mean, the critters are the most aggressive ones, but I think they punch themselves out pretty early in the fight.
So is it Critters 1 Critters or Critters 2 make a giant critter ball critters?
I mean, it's kind of all part of the same thing, right? Because the critters are space aliens and the Ghoulies are demons, I think. I forget what the munchies are. The hobgoblins are also hobgoblins are also aliens. But see, I think any species that comes from outer space that maybe can't find the proper like environment to breed itself is going to be at a distinct disadvantage. I think we go Gremlins 1. I think the ingenuity of Ghoulies and their understanding of plumbing makes them number 2. I think that munchies kind of stay on the sideline. They're on the periphery, and then the critters punch themselves out early against the indefatigable army of gremlins, and then so critters are 4. And I'm not gonna. We can leave like the hobgoblins and some of the other lesser.
Apparently, the munchies. If you chop the munchies up, they grow into more munchies.
Yeah.
Which I've never seen munchies. I'm just reading the Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Maybe we should do that.
Chop munchies up or watch munchies. Because my advice would be not to watch Ghoulies. If you have a choice.
Ghoulies go to college?
Yeah, that's Ghoulies 3. The Ghoulies get pretty... Like I said, the Ghoulies are the smarter. Like, they actually might be smarter. But there aren't as many Ghoulies. Right. There's like a limited number of Ghoulies. So anyway.
Apparently the munchies are...
Tell me all about the munchies.
Well, according to the plot summary on Wikipedia, a space archaeologist discovers a fossilized munchie, so I guess they're aliens.
Yeah, I mean, the munchies are an intentional, like, parody of Gremlins, which is hilarious because the Gremlins are kind of a parody of themselves to begin with, so it just doesn't make any sense. But...
Apparently directed by Tina Hirsch, who was the editor on Gremlins, so who knows?
You can skip munchies, it's not good. And then, like there's other small, like, there's demonic toys and stuff like that, but
But what about Doll Man versus?
I mean,
Krampus?
that's one man. He's just a tiny man
But it's
from
not
space.
but it's not just any man. It's Tim Thomas.
I know, but
Well-
he's a tiny from space. He's a tiny man from space. It's not the same thing. Anyway, we can move on to Krampus now.
I feel like if we do that, Puppet Master comes into it, and then you get a whole every small thing that
Right.
kills people.
Right.
I was gonna
that's-
say, then I feel like we're getting into like, does Chucky start to count? Like, is that
What's
like?
the height limit? What's the height restriction?
Yeah,
in
I'm
this
like, it's a
conversation?
slippery
Does-
slope once we get into like,
Does
you know.
Krampus
Yeah.
count?
No, Krampus is huge. Did you watch
I don't know what-
Krampus? Because
I
he's
did-
pretty
I
big.
didn't have time. You said it was optional, and therefore I didn't do it.
I mean, there is
Yeah.
a bunch of tiny gingerbread men.
That's
So
true. That's
where
a-
do the gingerbread
yeah.
men from
Where did the
Krampus?
gingerbread man rank? Yeah.
Yeah, for a movie without practical effects, I gotta say the creature design in this movie is pretty on point. Like, I enjoy the look of all like the little fucking things.
Yeah, absolutely. The big like Jabba the Hutt is as a Jack in the Box is probably my favorite.
Fuck, I really should have watched this movie.
I like
Yeah.
with the tri jaw, yeah, and I
Yeah,
really like I really like the Krampus itself. I like how it becomes clear when you get a close look at him that he's just actively wearing someone's face.
Right.
Like it's
It's like a
It's a
mall
cre-
Santa's face or something.
it's a
like that.
creepy ass design. Like it's a fun movie. Once again, like
Bryce's
think that-
fancy pronunciation of Krampus is really
Krampus. I feel like once again the
I
watchword on
agree.
this movie is tonal control. So it's I can't tell if this is a genuine compliment or a backhanded compliment, but I will just say thank you guys for your enjoyment of my Krampus pronunciation.
Crump it up.
But, crump it up indeed. That will be the sequel. But yeah, I think that this movie is like just a lot of fun, top to bottom.
Does anybody know why we as a culture suddenly decided Krampus was the thing we were gonna do in between 2012 and 2017? Because
Alice
There was-
can confirm or deny this, but I think the first time I saw it in pop culture was the Venture Brothers. Can you remember anything before that?
No. Before the Venture Brothers, no. My memory
Yeah.
is limited to 2002 or so.
but when,
No,
when,
I don't-
when
I don't
was
know.
The,
I don't
when was the Krampus episode of Venture Brothers though?
I think it was. I can't remember if it was between the second season and the third season, or between the first season and the second season. But it was a holiday special, and
So,
they
but that's like that's still like
accidentally summoned the Krampus. So that's got to be like
That's-
2005, 2006.
right. That's still like 10 years between the Venture Brothers doing it and like our shared Krampus mania brother. That
I
we had
think it was a
with-
slow burn. I think it kind of ramped up. Like once the Krampus was like, reintroduced to the I don't think like it was like no Krampus then Krampus. I think it was, hey, there's the Krampus, and it like was kind of like an internet joke for a while and nerdier stuff
Right.
like the
I was gonna say, I
the
feel like
Venture
it was
Brothers,
an internet thing. Like,
Yeah, and then it kind of
right.
then it slowly crept into the pop culture most significantly with this one.
Right.
So,
So it's
I
like
how there's
zombies, except it didn't stick around as
been-
much.
just like
Yeah.
there's like a bunch of cheap Gremlins knockoffs. I actually do like that because Krampus is public domain. They did a bunch of like Asylum style Krampus knockoffs
There are
after this
so
came out.
many.
Like, yeah.
I just did a search on IMDb for Krampus, and there's like 7 Krampus.
Apparently it
movies.
was
yeah,
in
Krampus.
apparently it was in Carnival, the rail
was
shooter
about to
game
say
that
that.
came out in 1988.
Hell
or
yeah.
1998.
dude, I played that game a bunch,
Yeah, see.
and I
Yeah.
never really liked it, but I played it anyway because that's how it worked.
because that's how light gun games work.
So yep,
Yeah.
even if they're not good, it's the light guns.
That's what I said. I said that's how it works.
Is
So,
that the one? Is that one that has a pump action shotgun? Am I thinking of the right
I
one,
think-
or is that?
I think so, but it's
'cause I
been
think that was part of
been
the
like
boom.
20 plus years.
All right, so
Yeah.
unlike Gremlins, I feel like we do need to do a little plot setup here. But the idea of
Evil
Krampus.
Santa Claus. The end.
the idea of Krampus is that there's a kid. His family is just being, ginormously shitty to each other, and at Christmas time, and he is tired of his shitty family, and his exhaustion of the Christmas spirit summons the Krampus, who puts his family in this weird kind of bubble pocket universe and takes them out one by one with the help of his evil minions and toys, and it's a lot of fun, and I think it's on point on Michael Dougherty is Doherty is a filmmaker that I'll basically watch anything he wants to do at this point, even though I was horrendously disappointed by his Godzilla film. But that's another story. This is a movie I was not disappointed by. It's Krampus. So, in case that was unclear at this point. So.
Right. Which Godzilla was the one that he directed?
King of the Monsters.
Oh, that movie rules. You're wrong about that.
That movie sucks. It's like a long Venture Brothers episode without jokes, and the fights are bad, and like there's
so like
only,
a Venture Brothers
Season
episode
three.
after
Yeah.
season 2.
Yeah, pretty much,
Yeah.
You know what? You're not wrong. For me, season 4 is my breaking point, but you're not wrong.
Yeah, everybody has a breaking point on that show.
Yeah, I mean, Trick or Treat. I didn't like this as much as Trick or Treat, but I still enjoyed it. The Toni Collette as like the put upon matriarch of a family is a role that she apparently was meant to play. Not that this performance is as good as Hereditary or anything like that. But allow me for a moment to stump for how amazing Toni Collette was in Hereditary. But yeah, I mean, it takes a while to get going. It doesn't get going in the same way that Gremlins kind of.
But I like that it's a well.
You know.
I'd argue that one of the things I like about Gremlins is that it's a slow burn, and then one of the things I like about this movie is it's a slow burn, and like I know I'm kind of contradicting myself, saying like, man, they don't make them like Gremlins anymore, but like I like the fact that it takes the time to like set up the family dynamics and like why this kid is so unhappy, and like doesn't just use shorthand or shortcuts for it, and then that way when like it pays off when like the summoning of the Krampus happens. Like it's like you get it, and like it's because the movie takes the time to lay the groundwork and set up all of its payoffs, and like kudos.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. The thing about we talked about Gremlins. Maybe you felt it cross the Rubicon of mean spiritedness
in that one scene.
With the one scene. I think that it feels a little mean-spirited to me to be like the kid who wants everybody to be happy on Christmas and finally reaches a breaking point is the one responsible for summoning the demon Santa that murders his entire family.
You're not wrong, but that's the kind of mean-spiritedness I like in a horror movie. Is like it's that moment of weakness that like lets the darkness in, So kind of similar to my feeling about Drag Me to Hell. Like the fact that it's like a good person who has like a weak moment makes it like so much more effective than like it was just a shitty person getting their comeuppance. So
But the thing about it is the rest of the movie is everybody else is the shitty person getting their comeuppance for the most part, right? Like they start off making everybody an asshole, then they kind of rehab the parents.
Yeah.
And then it is all the shitty people getting killed off,
kind of like when I was saying how I like how its take towards Christmas is like without like being like the movie itself. Like these people feel like more realistically shitty than like movie shitty. Like, it's not like I find this movie like weirdly uncondescending, if that's like a thing. Like everyone kind of basically gets treated on their own terms, and even like though they're like aggravating and like you don't like them, like I can almost guarantee that everyone has like family members like this, and like the Toni Collette and Adam Scott characters like aren't like assholes to be assholes because they hate Christmas and they want their kid to be miserable, but they're overworked and they're overtired and they're having like problems with their own relationships, and that's like bleeding out into the relationship with their kids, and like it's more or less pretty emotionally grounded realistically. Like the characters of like the redneck family are a little bit more caricatured, I guess, but like even then, like David Koechner, like he's really cartoonish at the beginning, but like once shit starts going down, he doesn't like do the classic Evil Dead 2 Bobby Joe, what you doing, I'm just a dumb redneck and I'm gonna fuck everything up like thing. Like I feel like the character beats are better than they have to be in a weird way.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's similar but not congruent to Gremlins to me, in that the whole movie kind of sits on this big set piece that kind of happens in like the beginning of the third act, and I think Gremlins has a better movie built around that. But this, like Krampus, definitely like the best part of the movie, 100% is when after the gingerbread man comes down the chimney on Krampus's chain, and the following 20 minutes, that's
I mean, I don't like this movie as much as Gremlins, and I don't like this movie as much as Trick or Treat, but it's way closer on both accounts than like it has any right to be. But no, I kind of feel like you know, I'm obviously coming in as the pro Krampus here, but anything that you first timers want to add?
I thought it was
I didn't
okay.
watch it.
This movie actually struck me as being kind of like almost more cynical about, because it's like such a kind of like bog standard Christmas story with like the weird horror stuff kind of bolted onto it, but it has a really good cast, and you know, some of them dragging them to hell as they kind of go along was all right, but it just felt a little like I didn't like anybody at all throughout most of the movie, and I didn't care about what happened to any of the people in it.
Fair enough.
But it's okay. Like, I mean, Alison Tolman, you didn't mention Alison Tolman, but she's great. She's in the first season of the Fargo TV show, and it's one of my favorite like TV performances of like the modern
I know.
era
I
of
got really
good
disappointed
TV.
when I realized that wasn't Margot Martindale. But then, yeah, like you said, she's great too.
She's great. Yeah.
Yeah, Tony Collette like doesn't play down to it.
Yeah.
I have a hard time seeing Adam Scott as anyone but Ben Wyatt, but I think he does like a serviceable job. I think all the kids do a good job. Like
Yeah.
it's a, you know, it's once again a well cast film.
It is a movie that is way better than it kind of has any right to be. It should be, but also like for me, it's just like CGI gingerbread men is just not as much fun as weird green puppets and little furry animatronic creatures. Like that will never ever, like CGI just doesn't do anything for me, and that also kind of hurts. part of
Although
this
I
movie.
think
This has some
gingerbread men
cool
look
costumes.
really good. Yeah, the gingerbread
they
men
don't.
look really good.
But
Yeah,
the costume characters, like that thing that kind of like eats that one guy, like that's a pretty cool effect. Like this movie has some like really cool stuff in it. So
I'll just say that like the movie I always go to, even though it's not like a Christmas movie, like for my like go to Hollywood condescends to you fucking hicks who like the holidays, like movie is Home for the Holidays, where like the whole premise of this movie is, wow, this mom wants her family here for Thanksgiving, what an asshole. And like I feel like this movie avoids that trap. Like it doesn't, like it's not going like, you know, it opens like with the Black Friday brawls, and like, you know, the first 20 minutes are like, you know, basically an endless parade of people being shitty to each other, but like it's because of the disappointment with the shittiness that it's like making fun of, not like the desire to have like a holiday itself. So like to me, I think that's like the line of tone that it walks that I kind of admire.
Is Home for the Holidays the Vince Vaughn, Reese Witherspoon one? Or is
No,
that
that's Jodie Foster's directorial debut with heroin era Robert Downey Jr. in it.
That sounds terrible.
It's a bad fucking movie. So yeah.
Is it worse than what's the one with the guy and the cards and it's like a Bob Dylan video, but it's Christmas and it's like everybody likes it, but I hate it.
I don't know.
what? Wait, say it again. Say that one more time.
It's a romantic comedy. It takes place around Christmas. There's a famous scene where it's like that Bob Dylan video, like a guy is standing.
Oh, you're
outside.
talking about Love Actually.
Love
Yeah,
Actually. There you go.
I don't have a strong opinion on that movie.
Nope.
Yeah.
Does it have puppets, murdering puppets in it?
Exactly.
Then it
No,
sounds like
no
bullshit to
flying
me.
puppets.
Sounds like fucking bullshit to me.
Anyway, the movie becomes basically like a siege film where the Krampus, like I said, cuts off this house in this like pocket universe thing and makes a blizzard come in. And the siege dynamics are really fun. There's a stop motion animation sequence in the middle that's really fun.
Yeah. That is a lot of fun.
Once the horror starts, like it's like the horror beats are like fucking great. Like, and for once again for a PG-13 movie, it plays like hard, and like I could see this being like an ideal gateway horror film. Like you get to see like people devoured by creepy ass puppets. One beat that we didn't get to talk about that I love is the way that it brings the elves into the narrative. I'm not going to spoil it because it's like one of the like the funnest little horror beats.
Right,
in
yeah.
the film.
So
It's like
I was gonna
it's like
ask
Aqua
about-
Teen Hunger Force.
I was gonna ask about
There's a Deagle beat.
spoilers on Krampus, because I kind of want to discuss briefly the philosophical implications of the ending, but I don't know if it's a spoiler.
Yeah, it's weird. I think that let's
I mean,
just throw out the spoiler tag.
it's a
here.
5-year-old movie. It's probably
People
fine.
constantly talk about that ending like it's ambiguous, and I feel like it's pretty clear that they're in a fucking hell dimension, and I don't understand
Right,
why.
so
you
is
would
it just
think that.
Christmas forever? Like every morning is Christmas morning, and they're stuck there, or what
That was the
is-
implication I took away from that. Yeah.
Okay,
That-
that was kind of my vibe too, but I wasn't sure if the time loop was implied or if they just like now live in the little bubble and they go through a whole year in the little bubble.
Yeah, I didn't realize
over
that
again,
people
or, you know, whatever.
people like vehemently disagree with this and insist that it's an ambiguous ending, but I really don't know how there's any other read.
I mean, they're trapped in a snow globe of demon in the workshop of Demon Santa Claus. So I'm not
And,
really
yeah,
sure
well,
what's ambiguous about that part.
yeah,
I'm just not
yeah.
sure if it's like, is it Christmas every day now until you're sick of it, or is it like you're just trapped in the little globe with all these people who are assholes 90% of the time?
It's like the ending
Or-
of Monty Python and the Meaning of Life. You know, it's just endless parade of Christmas with a dash of hell as other people. So you know,
But where is Mr. Creosote in this?
this is true. But yeah, I mean, like I said, this movie's fun. Like the practical effects it does have are fun. The CGI it does have isn't like appalling. Like I think that all like the big like monster battle scenes are really well constructed. I think the design on the Krampus itself is a ton of fun because he's this giant hulking beast and shape in the background for most of the time. But then when you do get in to see the detail on it, it's always really unsettling. Like the more you look at it, the more unsettling it gets. I appreciate the film's live action recreation of the Calvin and Hobbes Attack of the Snow Goons arc. Like it is a fun Christmas treat to me.
I'm really into what Eric is doing on stream right now.
What is Eric doing on stream right now?
Don't.
I've
Don't
been
worry about
intentionally
it.
not talking about any of these games because I didn't want to interrupt the conversation. But I think are we pretty much ready to wrap a little bit here?
I was gonna. Angela specifically asked about rare exports, so I was just gonna kind of open the floor generally to Christmas related horror. If anybody else has any thoughts, I watched rare exports last night, so I'm down to talk about it. Angela, if you have things to say about that.
I just think it's fun. I didn't get a chance to watch Krampus. I'm sorry, I didn't have much to contribute, but I just love the idea of Santa is technically evil, and so are his elves, and they eat small children.
So that's a spoiler that I somehow like. I remember hearing about this movie when it came out in 2010 and had not managed to watch it until last night, and somehow avoided getting spoiled on the kind of twist that comes towards the end. Which again, I don't know if we want to throw up a big spoiler tag.
Oh yeah,
10-year-old rare exports. But the way they work in the elves in that movie is also very interesting and is sort of like not really what I expected at all. And then when they're like, "Oh, this is what's really happening," I was like, "Holy shit!" I'm genuinely surprised that is the turn this movie took.
I'm actually glad that you didn't watch Krampus because I fell asleep 10 minutes into Rare Exports last night. But after that, I'm gonna have to go back and watch the rest of it. So.
Yeah, I'm sorry I spilled it. I know, I was just thinking, I'm like, I
No,
really
it's good.
Colette, and I didn't get a chance to watch it, but...
Yeah.
Trying to fit 3 movies into our schedule really cramped us.
I'm waiting all like 2 hours for that.
So I think that, I mean, rare exports, again, I won't go into spoiler territory.
Why not?
here.
I want to hear
Like we just did.
Yeah, sorry.
I mean, she didn't really though, not because the thing of Santa being evil is the kid. So the whole setup is like they're excavating what is believed to be the tomb of the real Santa Claus, and there's a little boy. It takes place on the Finland-Russia border, on the Finnish side for the most part, but they're excavating on the Russian side, and it's actually similar to Eric's movie pitch for the like giant hole in Siberia with the nuclear spiders or whatever. Basically,
Scorpions.
like,
It was scorpions.
Scorpions. Sorry,
Yeah.
there's this massive tomb in Russia, and they're excavating it because they think. that the
Oh
real Santa Claus is there.
fuck! I just dressed Gizmo up as a bee in this Nintendo DS game. Sorry,
Why does this exist?
Dude,
I don't know.
why does this
Remember those
exist?
Nintendo?
There are a bunch of virtual pet games
on
on
the-
DS
yeah,
at the
so,
time,
Yeah, but why
man.
did somebody say, "Hey, let's take like a even then like 15-year-old property"?
More than that,
and,
man.
like,
Like
they had
25-year-old. Yeah,
Because somebody really wanted to put Gizmo in a bee costume.
it was worth it.
I mean, they were smart and right, but I just am confused how
Holy
they got
shit.
funding for it.
I get to rub his little ears now.
Like, can you intentionally feed him after midnight and turn him into a gremlin? Or...
I don't know. That's a good question. Messy
Yeah, is there a
bed.
clock?
I admittedly want to see him dressed up as a bee now. That sounds really charming.
Check out the stream. Twitch.tv/onthestick is where the stream is happening now. So
I can put
he's
it in
still in the bee costume.
I can put it in the. It's in the G chat there.
Anyway, so Santa Claus's grave.
So so the little boy starts doing all this research, and he's like, "Oh, the real Santa is evil, actually," and he like figures that out like very early on, and you're kind of going along with it of like, oh, because the whole thing is like the people who are doing the like the guy who's in charge of the excavation, who's supposed to be this like millionaire CEO who's funding the whole thing. He's like, oh, once you get close, like, no swearing, no smoking, like no being naughty on the site, basically. And the guy's like, what is this shit? And he's like, I'm serious. Don't, like, you know, because if you're naughty, Santa's gonna get you. The twist is that well, again, so like, are we gonna put up a big spoiler here and just go for it? Because I'll do it if you know.
Yeah,
if
do it.
else is
Yeah,
cool with that.
go for
Dude,
it.
I gotta know.
We've been doing it for the other
All right.
films. So.
Here's the big spoiler tag. Okay, so the father of the little boy has a wolf trap because wolves roam in this part of the world, and they'll eat his livestock or steal his.
Santa's a wolf man.
Wait, and this is important too. He has a reindeer ranch, and he is a reindeer slaughterer.
Yes, he's a butcher. He's the town butcher for reindeer, and that's how the whole town makes their money. Is they like when the reindeer spawn, I guess. I don't even know. Whatever. When it's reindeer season,
They swim upstream.
they swim upstream.
Yeah,
right?
so because of all the man-made dams, we had to invent reindeer cannons so that way we shoot them up.
Yeah. Yep. What this movie needed was a reindeer cannon, actually. But so they hunt.
That's
the
what every
reindeer,
movie
and then-
needs.
Right, and then
Anyone else on this stream fired a fish cannon?
no. Have you?
I was near.
I was gonna say,
that.
of anybody here, like,
Yeah, right.
There was one at the
Anyway.
Lake Alice Dam. Like, anyways,
Yeah, they're pretty great.
yeah, it's pretty
But
good.
so when it's reindeer season, they kill the reindeer, and then the little boy's dad, the main character, his dad, is the one who butchers them, and then that's how they make the money for the whole village, basically for the whole year, seems to be the implication, right? It's this little tiny Finnish village way up north by the Russian border, and
I'm glad that they
the
finally
wolves-
got done building it.
Yeah, right. And so the wolves come through the fence because someone cuts a hole in the fence, and wolves come through the fence and kill all the reindeer. And
It's
so
almost 1 a.m. here, for the record, just in case.
they're
anybody's-
like, we don't now. How are we going to make money? Whatever. And they find this dude in the wolf trap, right? So the little boy's dad has a wolf trap that is apparently illegal, which is part of what I didn't get at first, because he's like panicking when this dude is in his wolf trap, and I'm like, yo, man, he was trespassing. Like, sorry you fell in my wolf trap, but like, them's the breaks, I guess, when you're creeping around on my property. But as it turns out, those kind of wolf traps are illegal in their town. So he's like freaking out. And the dude is this old dude with a long white beard, and the little boy is like, it's Santa, but he's evil. So like, but these guys are looking for him. And so the dad and his buddies are like, we're going to hold Santa for ransom and get the money we would have made with the reindeer that we lost from the guy who's running the dig. But the twist, which I somehow had managed to avoid getting spoiled on for 10 years, is that no, that guy sure as hell is not Santa Claus. That guy is
He's
one
a
of
Krampus.
Santa's helpers.
Oh.
Santa Claus is like a fucking kaiju Krampus who's still frozen in the ice,
Oh shit!
and they're trying to thaw him out and tempting him out with a bunch of children who they've kidnapped, and are like laying at his feet with a bunch of ovens and radiators and hair dryers around him, trying to melt him out of the ice.
Yeah, Santa eats children in this version.
Yeah.
This is like their sacrifice to get him alive, is to feed him children.
Yeah. And the whole spin is
Should've watched
like,
this movie.
yeah, it's only like 75 minutes long. It's on Shudder if you haven't already used, if you didn't use a code to get a free trial of Shudder when we did Maniac Cop, now's the time, I guess.
Was this
But it's only, like,
before or
75
after?
minutes
Because this
long.
is very similar to the Aqua Teen Hunger Force Santa thing.
This is after, I believe.
Okay.
But
It
it's also
seems
like,
after.
yeah, it's also, well, also Glenn Danzig isn't in it. And also, but also it's like, it's actually, I mean, it's got violent moments for sure, but the main character is the little kid, and it feels a lot like a more grown-up version of you know,
Oh, I dressed
some
him
of
up like a little
those-
astronaut.
some of those he's not just cowering in the astronaut helmet, he's actually
He's-
like dressed up like an
Yeah,
astronaut.
I'm putting him back in the bee suit though.
But yeah, it feels more in line with the like the little kid protagonist, you know, almost like Home Alone, you know, of
He
this
loves
little
it.
boy, this little 9-year-old boy, and there's a very heavy-handed like coming of age moment where he like lets go of his stuffed animal that he's been carrying around the whole movie, like Linus with his blankie, and then he like just leaves it behind as he goes to confront the giant kid-eating Santa monster. And you're like, oh, he's grown up. I get it, but it's more in line with that than a traditional Christmas horror movie. But I liked it a lot, actually. I'm glad that I finally had a reason to sit down and watch it. But since Angela recommended it, she should talk more about it.
Yeah, well, I actually think there's so many other parts of it that that you didn't spoil that make it worth watching, even if you ultimately know Santa is a horrible monster who eats children. Yeah, I just think this one is really, I don't want to say it's like an updated or like a more contemporary version of Gremlin, but I think the fact that they focus on the kids and their experience, even though it is a horror film and has some gruesome elements to it, it felt like a more contemporary version of like the campiness that Joe Dante is hinting at, without cute creatures, because the elves are also pretty terrifying.
Yeah, if you wanted to see a bunch of like flaccid old man penis, this is the movie for you. Let me tell you.
Yeah, this is definitely.
I'm
not
in.
something
Let's go.
that
Let's go.
This is truly not an American film in so many ways. As I was rewatching it, like, oh yeah, this could never get made here. But
Yeah, like, okay, do you guys, the scene in Gremlins where all the gremlins are stop motion walking
Where
down the
well,
street?
are the
Imagine
gremlins are
that.
stop motion walking with
Imagine-
their stop motion dicks hanging out?
Imagine,
and-
right? Imagine that, but it's a bunch of old dudes with their dicks out.
Right.
That's
Wait,
that's-
hold on.
it was
Wait.
stop motion dicks though,
Oh,
too. Just
how did you know I was going to ask that?
they were
Mystery.
definitely not stop motion.
Yeah, no stop motion.
You're
wingers.
All right, well, I'm out then, I guess.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree. There's a lot of really good moments between. Also, this is it's similar to The Thing in that there is a woman is mentioned in this movie, but there are no women in this film at all.
For better or worse, I don't know. I have zero comments on that part. You kind of forget. You're like, this is truly just an island of all men, I guess.
Yeah, well, two women are mentioned, actually. Apparently, the little boy's mom, I think it's kind of implied that she's dead, but I'm not certain. They never say that explicitly. And then one of the other men in the village, his wife's hairdryer was stolen as part of the Krampus Santa monster thawing scheme, and he's upset about it. So, but you never see the wife who's upset about her hairdryer being stolen to thaw out child-eating Santa, so...
An instant Christmas classic.
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, again, I think part of what works really for me is like, I feel like we don't get enough short movies anymore. And this is a short movie, and it does everything it needs to do in that 75 minutes of, you know, outside of the credits. And it works, and I felt, you know, I once was a little boy, I guess, so maybe that's part of it, but I like the little kid feels very like realistic and identifiable.
If you're gonna say that, you have to say that in the big Billy Corgan wail. Okay, Joe.
Yes, I used to be a little boy. Yeah, so I don't know. I thought that especially the child actor is like, I mean, it's hard when someone's acting in a language that you don't speak, because maybe they are terrible and you just don't speak the language enough to know that their performance sucks. But I thought his performance was really good, the little boy. So
It's good if you believe it's good. Listen, I've watched a lot of anime, and I know not all those people are good actors, but they're still my children, and I love them. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Your reaction tells me you don't get it.
Oh, I do. I mean, I feel like like if you saw someone deliver the line like "Omae wa shinderu," like if you saw that someone do
Said
that
it
straight
wrong, first of all.
in English and do it the same way, you'd be like, "That's not good." That's
Overacting
not,
is overacting,
yeah, right.
period. Yeah,
Right.
I know.
But it works in the context of that
Yeah,
show
it
or
does.
that movie because
Yeah.
that's ridiculous. We should do the live action movie of that sometime, by the way. Because
Oh,
my
yeah.
god,
That's
oh
short
my
and
god,
audible.
yes,
It's checks all the boxes.
checks all the boxes. My
And
god.
I can be like, actually, in the anime, it was different because, and everybody will just glaze over for like, a few seconds.
Just like now.
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
now.
What were you guys talking
So-
about?
What are we talking about? I'm enjoying
Yeah.
watching
I-
Eric look for Gizmo.
It's not
So-
Gizmo. This is Grace. This is a different. There's
Excuse me,
different. There are
Mogwai.
different Mogwais that you can
Is
unlock
she
in
in a
this game.
refrigerator?
She's
Why do you
hiding in the
say-
cupboards. No, she's hiding in the cupboards, and then I have to find her. Yeah.
You got a trophy for I Spy Mogwai. Oh, shit. You unlocked a new Mogwai, dude. Good job.
I know. We got to go check that one out, I think.
So, are there any other like? Well, actually, I'm sorry. Does anybody else have any? And by anybody else, I mean Angela, because I think she's the only other one who watched it. Other thoughts on rare exports before we
Go to
move on
bed.
from there? Yes.
Yeah, no, you summarized it really well, Joe. Y'all should watch it. I think it's also free on Tubi right now, or free with ads.
Does Santa get free?
We can't tell you that part.
Can't that part I can't spoil for you.
We can't also tell you what happens to the elves afterwards.
No, that's pretty great. I can't tell you that either. That's important.
Fine, I'll
Yeah.
watch it.
That part you have to watch for yourself. So I guess
Watch
I'll
it with
just-
your small children.
yeah. Yes, do watch it with your small children. See how they
They have-
react
they
to
have-
lots of
they
old
have to
man
know what
lines.
They have to know what an old man Norwegian's penis looks like sometimes. So.
Finnish, not Norwegian.
Sorry.
It's a It's a life lesson we all have to learn.
Well, I'll just talking about like other Christmas horror movies. Like I think.
Finish this podcast.
Okay, well then never fucking mind then. I was
No,
gonna
no.
say that the.
Go ahead.
Bryce, you
I'll
should
just say
finish.
I
it's,
never want to end.
Well, I think
It's
we
like
were all
10 o'clock here.
we're all kind of talking about like isn't it weird that there's all these Christmas horror movies? But like if you go back to like the Victorian era, like telling ghost stories at Christmas like was a tradition. Like there's always been a kind of strange link between the season and horror stuff. So I think one of my personal favorites is the.
Hey, I have a question real quick. Sorry. What do
for
you
it,
get? What do you
real
think?
quick.
What do you think Lenny might like to eat? Lenny the Mogwai, a burger, baked potato,
Pizza.
carrot
Fried
cake,
chicken.
pizza,
Duh.
fried chicken. All right.
Pumpkin pie.
Yeah.
Pumpkin pie with a little bit of whipped cream.
All right.
on
I'm
top.
sorry. That was
But
important.
I'll say that the Amicus 70s Tales from the Crypt has a version of their
burped.
classic short All Through the House, which is about a escaped lunatic who dresses up as Santa and breaks into a home the night that a woman has murdered her husband. So she can't contact the police because she has just committed a murder and now must contend with a murderous axe-wielding Santa. And the cool thing about this one is that they also use the story.
Durant.
Well, they used the same story for the inaugural episode of the Tales from the Crypt TV show, and Robert Zemeckis directed it, and he also does a corker of a job with it.
Yeah,
So
I was
there are
actually gonna
not
say-
one but two really good versions of All Through the House that you can
Wait,
watch.
why
I
doesn't
am-
he just blame the murderous Santa for the husband?
Well, you can go back and tell the '70s, British housewife, and by
I'm gonna
extension,
remake that.
the 40s comic that it was based on, and explain the plot hole there.
Yeah,
But-
well, I'm glad you brought that up, Bryce, because I actually did watch the HBO Tales from the Crypt version. I have not yet watched the Amicus Films version, but I do have that on Blu-ray, so I'm planned to watch it before Christmas. But I
The
watched
X-Men is a little more restrained, but they both have their
Yes.
strong points.
Well, I love one of my favorite things is that in the TV episode, noted character actor, and now I can't remember. It's going to drive me nuts that I can't remember his name, but the guy who was the gym teacher in Nightmare Part 2, is the husband who gets offed in the first like 30 seconds, and he's just doing like fun, weird corpse faces for the whole thing. Like his whole performance is like variations on dead faces. and it's great. And he gets like one of the top billing spots in the show, in the HBO version. But yeah, but in that version at least, and it's been a while since I've watched the Amicus version, but in that version, she does blame the murder of her husband on the axe wielding psychopath. But how that pans out for all parties involved, you'd have to watch the episode to find out. But yeah, I've watched all the Christmas movies I've watched so far this year have been horror movies. I haven't watched any like normal ass Christmas movies yet. But another one I watched Dial Code Santa Claus, which was hosted by Joe Bob Briggs a few weeks ago on Shudder. And man, that's a weird ass movie. Has anybody else seen Dial? It's a French murderous Santa movie that's like, the guy who wrote it claims that he was the inspiration for Home Alone. Watching the movie, you're like, yeah, there's a lot of that in this, to be sure. But has anybody else seen that?
Nope.
I have not.
That's on Shudder, Joe?
It is on Shudder, yeah. You can watch it with or without the Joe Bob and Darcy interstitials. Obviously, watching it with them makes the movie considerably longer. So, but yeah, it's on Shudder. It's a French movie, and it's really like, if you didn't like, knowing that it came out the year before Home Alone and watching it is like, yeah, I can definitely. It's way more violent than Home Alone. With some more like grim implications and less like the violence is a little less cartoony than Home Alone, but it's still like, oh yeah, that's it's Chris Columbus might have been watching some. Oh, did Bryce re-up his claim at any point tonight? That because I listened to some of our old Christmas episodes this month, and Bryce mentioned how he felt that Gremlins is the only good contribution Chris Columbus has ever made to film.
I'll stick with that.
And I just wasn't
Stand
sure.
by it. Stand by 100%.
Okay.
I like that you didn't need to think about that. Like,
Yeah.
at all. Like, ready. I'm ready.
When I was
I
a
don't know,
kid, we went and saw Home Alone 2 in the theaters, and I laughed so hard I broke my nose on the seat in front of me. So I really enjoyed that game that movie when I was like 8 years old.
I have maybe softened on Home Alone a little bit, but that's still a movie that runs on 95% nostalgia. I don't think it's a good movie.
I haven't seen it since then. I don't plan to. But...
Home Alone 2 is a bad movie. I will go so far as to say that. Home Alone 2 sucks. Home Alone 1, yeah, I think probably a lot of it is nostalgia for me, any enjoyment that I get out of that particular film.
Can't believe you don't like Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yeah, I don't really like that movie either, as a matter of fact.
I'm not even going to watch the movie where he has Kurt Russell playing Santa Claus. That's how little of a fuck I give about Chris Columbus. So.
Oh yeah, that's a tough road to hoe, man.
Yeah.
If you really want to,
Even though it has Goldie Hawn as Mrs. Claus,
yeah,
I'm still not gonna
it's you know, listen, live your life the way you want, but.
Not gonna watch that. Not gonna watch Ghoulies. Not gonna watch Creepers. Think of all the time I've just saved.
Well, yeah, but you should
That's
watch
like
Critters. You didn't say you weren't gonna watch Critters, so.
All right, I'm also not gonna watch
You there.
You should watch Critters 2, because Critters 2 has the Critter Ball.
I might watch the Critters go to college. I can't.
No, the Ghoulies go to
Wait.
college. Bryce,
The Ghoulies go to
listen,
college.
you got to get
Come on,
this right.
You guys gotta expel me from this podcast.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
we're
I
gonna
think
expel
we probably
everyone
should
from
wrap-
this
yeah,
podcast.
expel everyone from the podcast. I'm just, my last note on Christmas horror is just going to be
Either that, or I'm
everybody
just
should
gonna
watch the
stream this
original
game
Black
until I go to have to go to work tomorrow morning. So
I'm gonna. Well, I will say I'll recommend real quick.
I have new
Valcourt
friends,
is a-
and they're Mogwai, so I don't need y'all anymore.
Valcourt is a small press that does excellent work. It's brought a lot of forgotten and underlooked horror novels back into print, and it definitely takes like its cues to like go after novels written by marginalized folk. They do a lot of great stuff, but one of the great things they do is at this point 4-volume anthology of Victorian Christmas tales, and I bought all 4 as a Christmas present to myself, and they are great. And so give them your money, because they sure do deserve it.
Were there a lot of marginalized people getting books published during the Victorian era?
Well, the Victorian. This is obviously a well, it's not completely out of their mission statement because they talk about like just out of print stuff in general, but like it's obviously breaking a pattern. But like a lot of their work does highlight authors who have not had the share of representation that they should, and it's like I said, solid people, good company.
I'm
Give
looking
them
at
your
their
cash.
page right now, and I'm going to follow up with you off air. I think everybody should watch Black Christmas, the original Bob Clark Black Christmas from 1974.
Yeah, that movie rules.
Like it, don't love it. Not gonna lie.
I enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah.
Anyways, I have to go now, so I was just gonna say Deagle Beat.
You know that, and to all a good Deagle beat.
Yes. Any other Christmas horror recommendations from any panel members before we sign
Ray
off?
Liotta. Ray Liotta. Get it?
Yep.
All right. That's it.
Not
We're done.
Christmas horror, but I would say arguably maybe Christmas action is Sean Baker's Tangerine, which is really fun. Running
I still
through.
haven't seen that either, actually.
It's definitely a Christmas movie, and they definitely are going through LA.
I'm going to recommend a YouTube playlist of just the NES soundtrack to Gremlins 2: The New Batch.
That's legit.
That is legit.
Sunsoft games.
That's the best way to experience that video game.
That's the greatest thing we've given our listeners this podcast for sure.
All right. Well, that's it.
I got nothing. I don't know.
Ray Liotta.
Deagle beat.
Watch Goodfellas, I guess. Ray Liotta.
Star Wars. Anyways, bye. Good night, everyone.
Rayleigh's Yoda.